Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Mssada Podcast. This podcast is chock-filled with information and hot topics from your host of Mssada, President Keith Mangan, and myself, First Vice President Matt Trahan. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are an athletic director and you wish to better yourself, gain knowledge, and improve professionally, be sure to register for the NIAAA Mssada conference, which is packed with LTI courses, concurrent sessions, and so much more. Keith, good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm outstanding, Matt. How are you today?
You know what? I'm standing in your reflection, so I'm great.
That's
great.
The reflection that you mean the glare.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There was
fresh cut today.
Yeah, very nice. There is, I don't see any gray in there, so that's good. I'm working on the grays. They're coming in.
My people of the redhead variety, we don't traditionally get gray. We go right to white, as you can see here. So.
Yeah, nice.
It's straight to white.
Hey, so listen, I want to give you a little credit for a great idea. I have two interns that now come in the office every afternoon after school. Unfortunately,
awesome.
they can't come in, during the school day. But got the idea from you. They are first class, above and beyond.
Great.
I mean, I'm at the point right now. I mean, this is obviously 18 years later.
Yeah.
The idea, I wish we would have came up with it, sooner, but man, I'll tell you, I'm hitting the ground running. The winter is I'm raring and ready to go. I feel prepared, and they've helped in such a tremendous regard. So thanks for the idea. I appreciate it. And that's ADs helping ADs.
And it's great. And that's what we try to do. Like for me, my kids come during the school day. I try to do it in the latter part of the day. But they're here doing everything from helping get uniforms ready, to setting up for games, we just put out our big mailer for our booster club for our membership drive, and they were instrumental with that. So it's great. And again, for me, it's just seniors,
right?
Who are getting trying to finish it,
right? Right. One of the things that we put in place, and then again, they've only been with me for 2 weeks.
Yep.
We have a shared doc.
Yep.
For we call them valuable ideas.
Yep.
So what I love about it is they've got the finger on the pulse of what's going on in the building. I think we do too, but they're on the ground level and they know what's needed, and they're adding to some traditional things, and we're actually talking about branching out and really getting our department out even further, which I think is great. And it all came from a great idea from a good friend. So thank you for that.
And you know what? And I'll say you just sent it right back with repay that favor. And I like the idea of the shared doc where the kids are. They're putting the stuff in, and it's ideas, and the kids, on the ground.
Yeah, will do.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. So we're here, a little holiday special before Turkey Day.
Absolutely.
Excited about that. I don't know about you, but this is it for us. So we're not in the building tomorrow. We play the night before Thanksgiving, and I know we'll talk a little further about that, which is our tradition. Yeah. But I'm assuming you'd like to bring in a couple very special guests.
Yeah. And just before we bring them in, just want to touch on again, you already addressed the national conference in Denver. Just to tease a little bit. I know you'll be there. I will not be there, but we're gonna run a show from out in Denver. So that's something we'll
live
as we go live
from Denver.
But also just some stuff that's going on with Mssada these days that we just did our voting, and Andy Crisafulli, who'll be joining us in a few minutes. I've been putting that information out on the Mssada Twitter account, those state award winners, as well as the individual district award winners. And, so many fitting individuals and do great work. And it's tough to make those decisions, as we go through. But it's, some great people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So why don't we, we've got a lot to talk about, but let's bring on these esteemed colleagues, two leaders in the field of athletic administration. Jim Quattromoni from Hingham High School is the current athletic director of the year. We're going to welcome him in, and he's the third vice president of Mssada. Here he is.
Hey guys,
how we doing, Jim?
I'm good. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to welcome in Andy, who is the past president of Mssada, last year's AD of the year.
Yeah.
And he is also working within Mssada, and he is the public relations director.
Absolutely. So there he is,
Nice.
right
How
there.
you doing?
Great to have you guys. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So listen. So guys, we as we said thrilled to have you on. One of the questions that we asked in our last edition here when we had Bob Baldwin on was kind of, when you introduce yourself and tell us what you do at your school and if you have any other roles besides being an athletic director, what is something that, as Matt and I have talked about on this, and it's sometimes a hectic life out there. What are some things that you try to do to unwind and kind of leave the job if you're able to at work? So, Jim, why don't you take it away first, Jim?
Sure. Jim Quattromani, Director of Athletics at Hingham High School. Thanks again, guys, for having me. When I looked at the questions last night, I mentioned this first question to my wife and my daughter about what do I do to unwind? They looked at each other and said, if it's not summer, you don't.
True.
Unfortunately. But I think two things that kind of give me some peace is being, I think, like a true Italian, being in my yard and working in the yard, putting the headphones on and just trying to get away for a little while.
Yeah.
And then I'm an avid striped bass fisherman. So I live on a brackish pond, so I can fish in front of the house and get out on the boat as when we're in the summer. So
nice
things that help me unwind.
Oh, that's good to know, Jim. That's good to know that in case one day that you wake up and you walk out the front door with a fishing pole, you might see a couple of people sitting out there waiting, or already out there. So that's good to know. So, Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit where you're from for those of the folks that might not know you and what you do to unwind when you're not working as an AD?
Sure. This is Andy Crisafulli. I'm the athletic director and director of wellness here at the Dartmouth Public Schools. This is my 10th year as an athletic director. My first 7 years were spent at Joseph Case High School, the town high school in Swansea. That's the school I graduated from, which, again, was a great experience. But again, moved on to Dartmouth about 3 years ago. As far as unwinding, that's 10 years into the job. I think the thing that I continue to struggle with is that part. It doesn't, the day that really never seems to end. Physically it ends, but not mentally. There's a lot of times where you wake up in the middle of the night, as I'm sure the other you guys on the call know, that those 3 a.m. agendas as to what's on your mind at 3 a.m. and then you can't get back to sleep. So I really struggle with kind of unplugging from the position. But when I successfully do it is traveling up to Maine. We vacation in Maine quite often with my family, and I have a handful of friends that are up there. And just like Jim, I'm an avid bass fisherman, myself and my 12-year-old son. And we definitely get out as much as we possibly can. A little 14-foot flat bottom, trolling motor, aluminum boat, and that's what we enjoy. I also collect baseball cards. So the hobby that I started at 10 years old is still here at 44. So.
Oh, cool. Well, that's good. So, Matt, we're all set then. So the way I figure, we don't have to search anymore for ways to unwind. We have two guys right here that we can go back and forth from.
This is it. This is it. I need to get out and fish with you guys. I think that would be relaxing. I will say this, though. I think it's a common theme. Everybody you talk to that, in my opinion, that really puts their heart and soul into their athletic department. There really is no time to unwind other than what you mentioned, Jim. July is a blessed month. It's a month where you can, get back in touch and spend time with your kids and your family, where you're on your own clock. You're not, living by a calendar or, the arbiter or whatever it may be. It's nice to be able to just put it away for a few minutes and kind of recenter yourself. So I do agree.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there.
So, guys, the fall season is just about winding down here. We're just pretty much at the tail end of it, I think, for all four of us. We're pretty much done on Thanksgiving here. Tell us a little bit about some of the things, the high points that happened in your school this year with the new statewide system, and some thoughts that you want to share with our viewers.
Andy, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll take it. So really enjoyed the fall season. I'll be honest with you, in the summertime, I was very worried about what participation numbers would look like, especially after the COVID year that we all persevered through last year. And fortunately for us, our participation numbers were as normal as they've always been. We were able to sustain 3-level programs in mostly every sport that we offered. Our teams were really successful. All of our teams qualified for a state tournament. I know that there was the new statewide tournament in power rankings. In some sports, our conference and our schedule really helped us. In some sports, not so much. So I think moving forward to reevaluate some of our non-league opponents, especially if they're not going to tweak the formula, is something that I think we're all going to need to do. But again, it was a very successful fall. We were able to stay safe and healthy here in Dartmouth, which was, again, our number one goal outside of the competition piece. And, a couple of our teams were able to advance a couple rounds in the tournament. Like you said, that we are going to be officially done on Thanksgiving and quickly turning the page to the winter, which again is the biggest challenge I think as athletic directors we have, where you're putting things away on Thursday and Friday and opening up new equipment closets on Monday. So it's not the transition is so fast. It's not as fast in the winter to the spring, but like I said, I think as the years progress, the transition gets easier and easier every year.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think I shared Andy's concern about participation, but I would report the same, that we had everything that we would have hoped for and probably a little bit more. We were fortunate as well to have all our teams qualify and get in the tournament. I think there was a hope, at least from my perspective, that when we got back to school this year, that everything would be normal. And as we all know, it's just simply not the case. I mean, between the transportation issues with the bus driver shortage and the official issues, it almost felt like every day was a rain out, and you were looking at rescheduling something, and then trying to stay at 2 or 3 days ahead of it to make sure you had a bus so you could give your colleague at the other school some notice that a 4:00 game needed to be a 4:45 game, and then the issues that go when if you have a back-to-back and how you're caught, the problems you might be causing on their site. It was a puzzle that was perpetually not going to be finished until things started to slow down. So that was a struggle, but I think we worked hard to get through it. And then we had our girls soccer team just played in the state final, lost to a tough Natick team on Saturday. All of our teams, I think, had an experience that I think they would report back to you that they enjoyed it, and that it was normal enough. But looking forward to taking that next step to putting this COVID experience behind us.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure.
It's a great point. I know up here we debated a lot about what the power seating would look like and things like that. I myself was a huge fan of the statewide system because I like the idea of the top teams playing at the end. Was kind of concerned about what those seedings and when they were coming and stuff like that. But, for the most part, here and there, it looked like those higher rated teams were pretty much there at the end. Obviously, there were a couple outliers here and there, but, I thought it was a pretty cool experience. And for a lot of our kids, we didn't have some of those really long travels that some people had. From us out here in Bedford, we went out to Holyoke at one point and then down the Friday night at Cardinal Spellman and Brockton, then out to Grafton for football, from volleyball to football, within an hour of each other was a good ride. But luckily, I still had my rental at that point, so that was perfect. So that was all good.
I think in the statewide tournament, a lot of the travel burdens were with the smaller schools, because you do have a lot of smaller schools out in the western part of the state. So that if you were in one of those lower divisions, your transportation to an away game was significantly longer than some of the bigger schools experienced.
Right.
I can tell you that, in our situation, the longest drive we took was to East Longmeadow, which again is a little over 2 hours, which again in theory is not so bad in comparison to some of the transportation headaches that I've heard of 4.5 hours, sometimes 3.5 hours taking a ferry to an island, getting there, and then having to come back. So I do like I said, the statewide system. I agree. with what you guys said about the competitiveness of it and matching up. In power seeding and your top teams standing at the end. I do think that the matchups in the first few rounds do get a little bit challenging, especially getting kids out of school. I know I ran into an issue where it was the last day of our term and a lot of kids were taking tests, and we were having an away girls soccer game that we were able to move to Saturday off of the Friday, but initially there wasn't much flexibility there. And I know from an administrative standpoint and from a teacher standpoint, there was a lot of frustration in our building, but luckily we were able to work it out.
Right. Yeah, we were in the same boat where we didn't have to do much traveling. We were fortunate with the higher seed. I think our longest trip was to Boston Latin, which is not much to be worried about at all.
Yep.
I think I'd like a little more time on the statewide system. I think if I do the math, I think the good seems like it outweighed the bad.
Yeah.
The rating system, though, is fundamentally I am against the rating system.
Yep.
Not rating system in itself, but a system that the only controllable data point is your margin of victory with a cap. I had to send emails out to families about halfway through our fall just to let them know that coaching strategy and playing time decisions will be affected by this. Yeah. 3 becomes the new 1 in many of the games, and if you leave a game leaving opportunity on the field because you didn't get to that max number, I just think fundamentally that's not good for educational athletics.
And Jim, to your point, and I'm wondering if this has happened during any football games across the state this year. Personally, I haven't seen it happen in any of our games or any of the games in our area down here in southeastern Mass. But the thought of a football team being up by 10 points, they get the ball back at the opponent's 15-yard line with a minute left, and in a typical year you would take a knee, the game would be over, or any of those teams trying to score that touchdown to give them that 14-point win.
Right.
And so the 4 of us would understand why a team did that, but the majority of the people in the stands might not know that. That could cause a lot of angst, in that facility.
It's a great point, Andy. I mean, you could fast forward to what we have to look forward to this winter. I mean, Jim, I think we've talked about this maybe with you or maybe somebody else, but as a basketball coach, you've got 2-3 minutes left in the game and you're up by 15. Typically, you're getting some of the younger kids, in the game because the game is the game, and you're looking to get some experience to those kids who have worked hard all week. You've got to protect the lead now because you've got to win by at least 10. So
Picture that. I was a basketball coach at Hull for 16 years.
Right.
While the athletic director there for 11. This is my 5th year in Hingham, and picture you're up 8, end of game. You're running a baseline inbound play with your studs to try to score to get to 10. The mathematical impact might not be as significant as a coach's mind makes it seem. Right. But it's the only controllable data point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. And I really think that the formula has to be tweaked in a way to actually acknowledge wins and losses because
100%. I agree.
They matter. We play the games for wins and losses.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is going to be something we're going to have to watch closely are our league games. In some sports where your league is strong in, say, girls soccer, you really benefit from playing in your league, where on the flip side, if they're not so strong, you still need to play those league games. And by playing these league games could hurt you. I can tell you in football down in our area, there was a game that was played between 2 conference member schools. The one team beat the other by 40 plus points and dropped 4 spots in the standings for just playing that game.
Yep.
Again,
we had a couple games like that this fall with football for us.
I'm hoping that doesn't tear leagues apart.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
And and start to for certain schools to look to restructure them.
Correct.
Yeah, the league.
Well, I'll tell you, so something that we did in our league, anticipating this, we have an 11-member league that we used to play twice within the division and 1 crossover. We were traditionally large and small with our biggest school being over 2,000 to our smallest school being like just over 700. So in anticipation of this, we actually changed it for this year. And then we just decided to do it again next year. We're only playing everyone once. And then after that, so now you have some, in all the other sports, you have some leeway to be able to go out and play other school, pick up some different games. If in the league play for the sport is very hard, you can go out and try and get some other games to try and make it to that 500 point if you want to. But and for the most part, it worked out pretty well. And we tried to do a little league tournament. It would have been great to do a district tournament, but that hasn't happened yet. But, I wouldn't be surprised that, especially in like a sport of football, that you'll see because of a league like ours where we're Division I right through to Division maybe 6, I think, that you'll start seeing that because you can't play everyone or because that's so different that you'll stop seeing some of that league play or whether or not that impacts that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd hate to see any system that's deteriorating leagues. I think is a system that needs to be changed. I think we enjoy participating in the Patriot League. I think is one of the better leagues around, and I think we work hard to keep it that way. The statewide eliminated the sectional tournaments, but I think the MIA did a nice job of pumping up the Final Four concept. Yeah. That I think was helpful, but league titles are so important. They're so meaningful. To deteriorate leagues in the interest of maintaining a system, a rating system, I just can't get on board with that.
Yeah, I would surmise though. I mean, the comment has been made. I've heard it a couple of times that they're going to get through this year. They're going to get through the spring. They're going to look at the data. But to Jim's point, I think again, we all know that you play the game. Because you're trying to win, so that win needs to account for something somehow mathematically. That has to be put into the equation moving forward. I understand things are the way that they are for this year, but as you guys all know, I mean, look at the last 7 or 8 years. Football has changed over and over and over again. So I would say that I think another change will be a coming.
Awesome. Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's no way you can't at least tweak it somehow, and especially the point of to not factor in like for instance my team's win-loss record. When you're playing me, or if I'm what my opponents do is in there, what the margin of victory is in there, but it's not what we do, and that's got to be taken into consideration. I'm sure it probably will be, and I know those surveys will come out soon, and they'll take that feedback and stuff like that, which I think will be great, and hopefully it's taken. So not to get off of this, but obviously we're right at that point where, at the end of our fall seasons, and we're talking about Thanksgiving and all the wonderful things that happen with Thanksgiving. So let's go around the group here, around the horn here a little bit. We'll talk about who your Thanksgiving matchup is, how long you've been playing that school and what do you expect to see, whether you're home or away, or what do you expect to see on that game? Jim, why don't you take it away first?
Sure. We're playing Situate High School.
Yep.
I think we are in year 15 of this arrangement.
Okay.
They are playing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So they're having a nice year playing in against Duxbury, all Patriot League matchup there. It'll be interesting to see what happens on that day and when the decisions they make on who they're going to play.
Absolutely.
I think that'll likely have a direct impact on the day. But I'm looking forward to it. It's a good day. It's nice to be back playing Thanksgiving football. Yeah. It kind of occurred to me this morning after an earlier meeting that we didn't play last year.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. And I'm excited to get back to it.
Awesome. Andy, who you guys got?
We play Fairhaven High School, who is about a town and a half over through a little part of New Bedford over to Fairhaven.
I was curious how you're going with a town and a half. Like how that
There's only a small area of New Bedford you have to drive through. That's why I say it's the half.
Yeah.
We've been playing them for a little over 90 years.
Wow.
And like Jim said, we did not play last year due to COVID, even when we were trying to both mutually find a date for a non-league game so we could continue that tradition. So we were unable to land that date for that game. So the next Thanksgiving Day home game was Dartmouth. So we are hosting this year. We actually hosted all of their senior football players and cheerleaders, along with all of our senior football players and cheerleaders this morning for breakfast together, which I think is a really cool tradition. And both the rivalry is very good in the fact that it's very, very respectful. I think we've all seen and been part of rivalries that can be bitter and nasty, but Fairhaven Dartmouth is far from that. So we're able to host with their coaches and administrators, almost 50 people this morning.
Oh, wow.
So we're excited to get them in and, kind of roll out the red carpet and give them the tour of the school and a lot of great conversation between the kids. So, 10 a.m. kickoff, and we're 7-3 and Fairhaven 7-3. So we're anticipating a great game as far as competitively and a big crowd, because not only are the two teams good, the weather's supposed to be beautiful.
Yeah,
Nice.
absolutely.
Very nice.
Matt, who do you guys have?
So interesting. For the longest time, we didn't have a Thanksgiving Day opponent. Former AD at Tri-County, Pete Kubiak, was in my league, and we came up with this idea about 15 years ago. We said, hey, why don't we play the night before Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Traditionally, as a player, I played on Thanksgiving, thought it was great. And in the back of my mind, I said, that might not be a bad idea, because, I remember Thanksgiving specifically, and my mother stayed home and cooked, and Dad went to the game. So this year we're hosting for the first time. Typically, we would either rent a field or they would rent a field, because neither of us had lights. We now have lights. So this is the first one here. Battle of the Cougars. We have a big Cougar Cup trophy, and we honor the offensive and defensive player from both teams. And like Andy said, it's there's mutual respect there. It's not one of those games where you have to go into a war. I think that the kids respect each other and understand what we're trying to put out. So
yeah, that's interesting, because I know more and more schools are looking at doing that night before. And some schools are playing at Fenway, I know as well. So that's a kind of a cool opportunity for them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a short window. I mean, it is a short window. We just played in a vocational semifinal game last week, so you only got a couple days to practice. But people will come out in droves, and I think it's nice, because they can come out on a Wednesday night, and then if you want to see another game on Turkey Day, you can double up and see two. So
that's pretty cool. So we have this year a new Thanksgiving opponent. So this year we're once Bedford started interscholastic athletics in 1957, our first Thanksgiving opponent was Burlington High School. So we played Burlington up until 1972, and then we made that change. That we played Concord, and then they started playing Lexington. And now this year we've made the switch again. So we're going back to playing Burlington again for the first time since 1972. So we had a great luncheon that Sean Hart over in Burlington hosted over at the Tuscan Kitchen in Burlington last Friday, which was great. Traditionally, our Rotary clubs have done that, but because of COVID and stuff like that, some of the members didn't really feel comfortable doing that. So Sean set us up. We had a great lunch over there, and we were able to do more than we traditionally do. That they've always just had the captains of cheer and band and football there, and we'd always just have our senior cheerleaders and football players go. So this year we had all of our senior band members, all of our senior cheerleaders, and all the senior football players with the school administration get together. We had a great guest speaker come in and speak to the kids, and it was a real good time. So Burlington's hosting this year, but we have a guy who does our announcing who got all the data, and we were 8-8 up until 72, so we're starting off pretty fresh right now. So looking forward to bringing that rivalry back a little bit. And Sean and I, we've started to do some more things with trying to play all of our sports against each other. So hopefully at some point we can develop a rivalry where it's not just about football. It's about a game hopefully against every team that we play, and do something with the kids in the fall and the winter and the spring. So that has the potential to be a lot of fun. But we'll see what happens as we go. So very much looking forward to that. And again, the weather looks great, but the main reason why we know the weather is looking great because it's not in Bedford this year. Traditionally, it's usually snowing anytime that Bedford would ever host. It should be a great day. So along those lines, so best of luck to all of you and your teams in those rivalries. But the big part about Thanksgiving is about the food, as we all know. Food and family. Well, let me say food and family, and friends. But food is
Absolutely
a big thing, and I know that we've all talked about this in the past. So let me. We're coming up to our top 10 here towards the end here, but based on that, let's talk about what your favorite Thanksgiving side is. All right, Matt, why don't you go first? What's your favorite side on Thanksgiving?
Well, in the theme that I live in, linguiça is king. So, listen, I love the Portuguese sausage. So, a couple of years back, my mother makes a French stuffing, and that's her thing. Not really my favorite. I do like the meat pie and whatnot, but dabbled around a little bit and incorporated some linguiça and chorizo, and you bake it. Almost, it's like a combination, so it gets like a little crunchy. It's a little soft. I put it out a couple of years ago, and between my father and I, we just about finished it. So it's pretty good. It's my recipe, so I like it.
Awesome, Andy. What about you?
Along those same lines, I can tell Matt and I are from southeastern Massachusetts, southeast part of the state, where linguiça and chorizo are very important in all of our lives. But stuffing is top of the list for me, and we have the same. We have the chorizo and sausage mixed in. With the stuffing, and I do like it on the crispier side, especially on the outside. Put some gravy on that, and man, I could eat that for days.
Yeah, perfect. Jim, what about you?
So, coaching basketball for 16 years, Thanksgiving kind of had a funeral feel to it because we practiced at night. It was almost like we'll see you guys in the spring. Yeah. And my wife, I will admit, just about everything to get things ready. And I feel like kind of I've got the plain answer, but her mashed potatoes are definitely the hit of the day.
Awesome. Nice.
Not as elaborate as your recipes, guys, but we're gonna go with the mashed potatoes.
Awesome. Well, and I'm a corn pudding kind of is my favorite one, which something I never had growing up, but my wife's family does. So it's great, and it's corn, and it's cream corn, and it's crackers, like saltine crackers, or the that are all mixed up and blended together, and it's outstanding. So that would be my favorite. But always, as you guys know, it's always been very interesting of going from from work to right to dinner. Right. There were years that I didn't even see my wife and kids for years because I'd leave from the football game and then go stop by my mom's house first, my mom and dad's house, and then just my mom's, and then we'd go over. My wife would stop by there, and I'd always miss them, and then I'd get over to her parents a little bit later on. So it's great to be able to, on years that we're away, because I get out of work a little bit quicker. But I got the text from my mother-in-law the other night saying, what time do you think you'll be able to get here, so I can tell everyone else what time to be there as well, which is kind of nice as well. So, but very much looking forward to that time with family. Not as big as it's been in the past, but definitely looking forward to those meals. So
Keith, before you move on to your top 10, because I know you wanted to start with the top 10. That's like your thing. You love the top 10.
I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the corn pudding.
Yeah, that's a whole. That's for off camera. We'll talk about that again later.
I'll place an order for an extra serving or 2 or 3 or 4, and I will deliver that. Now that I know where Dartmouth High School is, after you guys are so gracious and hosted us for volleyball last week, I will bring some down there.
So I love the meal, right? I love everything about the meal. We do turkey, ham, we do all the fixings, probably, similar to what you guys are doing. But I'm a sweet tooth. Okay. Right. So, an hour or two after the meal, after I've had a cup of coffee and kind of, cleanse my palate. Gentlemen, what's your go-to for Thanksgiving dessert?
Maybe a little nap in between.
Oh, there's definitely a nap. Yeah, definitely a nap. Jim, what do you got? What do you got?
I would definitely go with some sort of cheesecake.
Yeah.
You know, I can take several different toppings with it, but that's definitely what I'm looking for when we hit that time that you're talking about.
Same here.
Absolutely.
No,
How about you, Andy?
I got the chocolate cream pie or my wife's Portuguese sweet rice.
Oh, the sweet rice. Yeah, that's something right there.
Sweet rice is fantastic.
And Jim, I'm sure you have no idea what they're talking about right now when they come back to these things. As neither do I. So
If you give me some corn pudding, I'll get some of my wife's sweet Portuguese rice.
perfect.
There you go.
You know what? There's a deal.
Nice.
There's a deal.
And we'll meet at a common spot.
There you go. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, no, that I would even say that dessert is almost as important as the meal itself. And absolutely. Oof. All right. So here we go. Top 10. Now this top 10 is from Mr. Food website that I found. I didn't just create this on my own. But we have number 10 will be Brussels sprouts. And what they did so that bacon is a must to be included in Brussels sprouts. So I guess anytime you want to make something good, you just add a little bacon to it.
Bacon is a must in everything.
There you go. Number 9 were buttermilk biscuits. Number 8 were creamed corn. Then we go down to number 7, some butternut squash.
Okay.
Number 6, I've not seen before. Not that I would probably ever try it anyway. Would be the cauliflower blossom. Unless you maybe made that some buffalo cauliflower, maybe that's the best chance I get to try that. But that's
maybe they mean the awesome blossom.
Yeah, maybe. There you go. Not a bad thought either. Cranberry sauce at number 5. Number 4 would be a sweet potato casserole.
Nice.
Followed by number 3, which I've seen a lot lately, is the green bean casserole. Me particularly not a huge fan, but I know quite a few members of the family love it. Number 2, mashed potatoes, and I'm sure that'll be whatever your way to do it. And number 1 is stuffing, of course. So, and I think the stuffing is what really makes it makes that whole meal whatsoever. And I don't know if you
try it with linguiça. Try it with linguiça. I wouldn't steer you wrong.
Now, are you guys traditional turkey oven fans? Have you tried the fried turkey or do anything different, or a smoked one or anything like that? Or
you're going to laugh, but we do the set it and forget it.
Stop it.
Oh, okay. All right.
I love it. What was that guy's name that used to do those commercials?
I can't even remember, but I'll tell you, everything he was selling,
spot on. You were buying.
Oh, I bought it. Hook, line, and sinker for a little fishing.
I can't even remember. I used to see those infomercials on there.
Set it and forget it. Yeah, it works very, very well. But the only problem is you can only have a certain size bird in the one that I have. So anything that's more than 15 pounds, we have to cook it in more conventional ways.
So what's everybody else having, Andy?
Ready? Ron Popeil.
Ron Popeil.
That's the guy.
Oh, wow.
The Ron code, set it and forget it. Thank goodness for the internet. Look that up right away.
But we're actually trying something a little bit different this year. So there's a local catering company of a guy that I went to high school with, who is, just kind of getting started with his business. And we are purchasing many of our side dishes through him because, again, and I'm sure that you guys understand this better than anybody. When you're hosting Thanksgiving Day for football, you're not getting home anytime soon. So the less that my wife has to do in preparing for the meal, the better it is for everybody.
So you're just saying you did that for her. You went ahead with the set it and forget it.
Yeah. So but we're doing sides through him, and
that's a great idea.
We're excited. Yeah, we'll
love it.
I'll let you know how we make out.
That's smart. Hey, gentlemen, so listen, want to thank you for joining us first and foremost. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us and really kind of let the state organization know a little bit more about you. And obviously we want to wish you luck with the games that you have taking place in the next day or two. Certainly we want to wish you and your families well, and hopefully you get a little bit of downtime before the ball starts bouncing on Monday. So thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you back again.
Thanks very much, guys.
Absolutely.
This was fun.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.